everyone. Welcome to the 306th episode of the Internet of Things podcast. This is your host, Stacey Higginbotham, and your co-host,
Kevin Toffel.
And we have, I'm going to say, an excellent show for you today. We're going to be talking about the news from Lennar, how they are doing a new smart home build with Ring. It's also going to be our guest this week. Surprise, surprise. Also in the news section, we'll be talking about Ring's conquering of the U.S. fire and police departments. I've got a little bit about the Tesla recall and what that tells us about designing long-lived connected products. For those of y'all who have Wink hubs and are looking for alternatives, we have some. There's a new device that handles I'm going to call it the infrastructure of the home that I talked about in my newsletter last week. We're going to be talking about those. Google has some new features for Home and Assistant. And then Apple HomeKit security system app adds widgets. Whee! Plus, we have a little bit of an update from Canonical for the enterprise and industrial IoT. And Kevin has an update he'd like to share about his smart home. Like I said, our guest this week is going to be Eric Fader from Lennar's Linux division. That's their venture division, who's going to be talking about the deal with Ring. We're also going to hear from our sponsor, TerraCode. And before we get to all of this, let's hear from another one of our sponsors. This week's sponsor is TechMeme, specifically the TechMeme Ride Home podcast. For all of y'all out there listening, you're probably into podcasts. And if you are into podcasts and into understanding the daily tech news, then the TechMeme Ride Home podcast is a really easy way to get it. It's about 15 to 20 minutes every day. It's posted by 5 p.m. Eastern. It's going to tell you everything that happened in a really quick burst. So if you want to listen to the one podcast that everyone who's anyone in Silicon Valley listens to every single day, search your podcast app now for Ride Home and subscribe to the TechMeme Ride Home podcast. Okay, Kevin, this week, the news, I guess this is the big smart home news.
I think so.
Sure.
If you say
Lennar.
so.
Yeah. Lennar Inc., which is a home builder. They're set to actually build more than 60,000 homes this year in the US. They've kind of rethought their smart home approach is really the news. They announced a big deal with Ring. A lot of other companies are involved, but what they've done is they've worked with Ring to create one app for all the devices that you might get in a Lennar new build home. And it's part of their established package. There's no add-on fees. It's just, if you buy a Lennar home new, it's going to come with a Ring doorbell. It's going to have a Flow by Moen water sensor in there. It's going to have a level lock.
Get Eero Pro 6 for your mesh Wi-Fi. The Ring alarm kit, the Ring video doorbell, Honeywell home thermostat.
Yes. Those are the primary things. I feel like I might be forgetting something, but I don't think I am. So all of that's going to be available to you, and you'll control all of it with the Ring app. So you just go into the Ring app. It'll all be set up. Go into the Ring app, and you're like, hey, I'm going to attach my account to this house. And then poof, all of those devices will appear.
Yeah, the nice thing is what they can pre-install during the construction phase will be pre-installed for you. And the folks at Eero, actually was on a briefing call before the news. The CTO of Eero, one of the co-founders, said that they looked at the floor plans of Lennar's homes and decided where the best place to put your mesh Wi-Fi routers and access points are. So that's actually pretty useful. That, it'd be something nice to have for current homeowners, but as a new homeowner, that's awesome.
Yeah. And so unless you stick like a giant saltwater aquarium in front of a wall, you're probably going to be good to go. So the couple notable things about this deal are it gives you one app. So that's really nice. And two, we're seeing Lennar. They actually announced a smart home build with Amazon 3 years ago. We covered it on the show. We had someone from Lennar on the podcast, and they talked about like doing movie time and having an Amazon consultant come in and like set everything up with you. And they're really backing away from that and focusing on this like smart infrastructure in the home. And like I said in my newsletter last week, I think this is the way to go. I think having this sort of thing is probably more useful to more people than just the gadgety stuff that we focus on.
Agreed. And even though this is specific to Lennar, it's actually called the Lennar Communities Connected by Ring program. Jamie Siminoff from Ring actually did say this could be applied, this whole model could be applied with other home partners. So I wouldn't be surprised to see more home builders bring in either this setup with Ring or an alternative, because there are other alternatives that they could put a package together as well.
Yeah. And actually in the interview, you'll hear this later when I talk to Eric Fader from Linux. He talks about how Lennar actually hopes other home builders do sign up with Ring on this. And he talks about what went wrong with kind of the earlier iterations. So stay tuned. You'll hear a lot more on this, including how it works, that sort of thing. Other Ring news. So
this pushes my hot buttons. Every time we talk about it, I'm sorry.
No, I'm with you. So Ring is still working with police departments and fire departments to install devices in neighborhoods. They now have, the Financial Times says that now it has 2014 police and fire department partnerships in the U.S., and almost 1,200 of those were added in 2020. And this does a couple things. One, the departments market Ring devices to their constituents. And this is actually where I have the biggest issue.
Right.
I don't like that because you've turned a trusted public institution into a marketing arm for your department, for your product. But two, these departments can request Ring videos easily through these partnerships. So some do it more than others. We had issues with this because police departments did have to have a case number, and they'd say, here's a case number. Do you have data on this? And people could say no, but police officers could then go formally subpoena it if they wanted to. Now, at the end of this year, Ring added end-to-end encryption, and so you can't actually do that. So if you are a Ring owner in one of these areas where Ring is working with the police departments, you now actually have the ability to not be as complicit. If you, like, for example, are in Milwaukee and you don't want to share data on your Black neighbors with Ring.
So can we talk about this for a second? Because here's one of the issues that I have with it. The end-to-end encryption does give you that power. That's actually an opt-in feature. The neighborhood stuff to actually capture and share the information is opt-out. It's totally backwards to me.
Yeah.
It's like Sidewalk. Sidewalk was originally is opt-in. Another Amazon thing. I don't like that.
I'm with you because it does require you to be much more proactive as a person who cares about, like, how people react in your community and social justice issues, if that's important. So I don't know. I don't love it. I like that Ring has obviously listened to the pushback and is trying to work with people on this and trying to have its cake and eat it too.
Right.
I mean,
right.
And I can't fault a business for doing this. What really needs to start happening is these discussions around this maybe the city should get involved and be like, hey, our police department should not be marketing the wares of a smart home company, Right. I don't know. Anyway, that's out there. There's a lot of people. It's clearly working for people. I don't know.
I don't think they know if it's working or not.
Well, sorry. Police departments, some of them are clearly pulling that data.
Yes, it's working for them. No doubt.
So, okay. Other news. This hits home for me because I own a Tesla that is affected by the recall. Basically, one of the computing components in my 2013 Tesla Model S basically wears out. The logging data just overwhelms it, etc. But basically, the part wears out. Tesla fought with the National Highway Safety something commission over this, and they said, nope, you're going to have to do a formal recall because when it wears out, the touchscreen goes black, and while you can still do many things in driving, you can't defog your device, your car, and you can't see your rear view backup camera. Yeah, plus it's freaky. I'm not going to lie. I've had my car reboot itself while driving, and your air conditioning turns off, and your screen goes black. And yes, you can still drive, but it is freaky. So the thing I took away from this, and that I think is important for other people to know, is Tesla said in a Wall Street Journal article, it is economically, if not technologically, infeasible to expect that such components can or should be designed to last the vehicle's entire useful life. Mm-hmm. I think this is really important. And they're right. Honestly, they're right. You can't put a computer into a product designed to last for 10 to 15 years, which is what a car's useful life really is, right? Mm-hmm. Or longer. and expect that to work seamlessly. There are industrial computers that do, but you also know that, there's plenty of old industrial components that are running like ancient computers and ancient OSs, and they're no longer secure, right?
And they're using Telnet.
Yeah. So I think now that we're almost a decade into designing all these connected products, we need to have, I've been talking about us having this conversation forever, but let's own up to the fact that you cannot have a device that is going to have a computing component that will last for longer than maybe 5 to 7 years without some sort of replacement. What does that mean?
So I'm going to give you a slightly devil's advocate take, because I don't disagree with you on what you said, but thinking ahead, should some certain components, key components that will not last, be modularized so that they can easily be swapped out / upgraded, etc.?
Yes. But again, who pays that cost?
That's a good question, but who pays it now when your transmission goes or whatever in a car that's 20 years old that you're trying to keep alive? If it's out of warranty, you do, but at least you have the option of having a dealer or a service provider actually fix, swap, etc.
Yes. And we actually, last week's guest, Arch Rao from Span, we were talking about this because it's an electrical panel that sits outside your house. Those things can last like 30 years, and they designed it to be the computing unit to be replaceable. That's what we should be doing. It's not what everybody's doing. And I do think the consumer is going to be like, I paid how much for this? And computers aren't cheap. You're looking at like $1,000, possibly $500 to $1,000, depending on just the part plus labor. So ideally you make it super plug and play, so the labor is not as big of a focus. But people are going to be like, people will be upset.
And they should be.
I don't know. I fully expect, I have a 3G modem in my car, right? Because it's so old. In a year, that's going to go under. AT&T is not going to support it anymore. So I'm going to have to pay $500 or $600 to swap out to a LTE modem, which will be super nice because my maps will load super fast. But I think when I do that, I'm also going to get stuck paying for data because right now I don't. I'm grandfathered in. So there's lots of, it's a brave new world we're entering. So start thinking about that with your product design. Okay. Speaking of brave new worlds, brave old worlds, I don't know. It's time to get into a brave new world if you have been relying on the Wink Hub, which is still down. It was down last week. It's down this week. We wrote a story to provide everyone options that are not the Wink Hub. Especially, you really only need to focus on these if you have Zigbee or Z-Wave devices in your house. I guess, and Lutron. Wink has always been nice because it's worked directly with Lutron's cassetta without you having to have the hub. So you might have to buy the Lutron hub also if you have Lutron lights and you've tied those into the Wink.
We still get a lot of questions about what hub should I buy. It's a pretty common question for us.
Yeah. So I would say if you don't have Lutron, you probably can set up a decent smart home setup with just Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So, there's HomeKit, there's Amazon, there's Google Assistant. All those work really well. They may not be as full featured. They are totally not as full featured. But if you want to get into sensors, a lot of those are going to be Z-Wave or Zigbee. So here's some options for you.
And this list is in a specific order, kind of from the most user-friendly from our experience to the more complicated DIY kind of solutions.
Yes. So we're going to start you off with SmartThings. Now, this is the actual SmartThings hub because that has the Zigbee and Z-Wave radio in it, which is what I assume you're looking for if you're tied to Wink. Otherwise, I would just say, go to the cloud. Or if you're not comfortable going to the cloud, I guess. SmartThings does have some local.
Well, or if you want local control, you'll want a hub.
Yeah. So SmartThings, great place to start for most people. The other option, and I haven't tried this yet because it just came out, it's actually coming out this month, is Eslo. Eslo is the combination of 3 smart home brands, Centralite, Vera, and Fortress. And they, at CES, launched 2 new smart home hubs. One is a $69.95 option, and one is a almost $200 option that has LTE backup. And I'm going to test these, but these will work with Amazon Echo, or Amazon's digital assistant, and Google Assistant. And then there's a list of other compatible devices. So you'll have all of the ESLO Z-Wave Zigbee devices that will work with it. And then you'll also be able to tie into other devices through the Madam A or Google Assistant options. So then Habitat Elevation. This is great for people who like local. Kevin has tried it.
Yeah, I tried the early edition of the hub, and the second gen has actually added a lot of nice features, such as an integrated Zigbee and Z-Wave radio, as opposed to like plugging dongles in for the first generation. I believe they've added Lutron support, which I know is important to a lot of people as well.
That's kind of straddling the fence between normal people and getting harder. And the harder class are a class of software that you actually can load on your own server. Some of them have little boxes, but you probably will have to add a Z-Wave or a Zigbee dongle to them. And so these are Home Assistant, Home Bridge, and OpenHab. And I use them in that order because I think Home Assistant is so popular that there's lots of resources out there available to you. But you will have to build a Pi, put the software on it, and then have the appropriate dongles.
Which is actually not a terrible experience these days. I mean, even if you don't need to be a developer or a coder, if you can just follow the instructions, 99% of the time you're going to be fine. It's just a simple download, maybe a $35 Raspberry Pi that you connect to your home network, and that is your new hub.
We'll note that HomeBridge ties your existing devices to your HomeKit devices. So if you're in a HomeKit house, you probably already know about this. But if you have Z-Wave devices, you're going to do HomeBridge, Z-Wave dongle, and then tie those into your HomeKit stuff.
Right. And aside from other devices, that also gives you options via plugins to connect different digital assistants. So even though you may have a HomeKit house, you can still speak perhaps to Google, for example, and control your devices. So it truly is a bridge. It really does bridge two disparate, separate services together.
Yay. All right. So those are some of your options out there if you decide to dump Wink. And I encourage you to dump it.
And I'm curious, when Wink comes back up, if they're going to refund people who are paying the $5 monthly subscription.
Oh, they did. So I actually got $1.25 off of my $4.99 subscription. So I got a quarter off. And I joked when I saw it that meant they could be down for a few more days. And,
and they
apparently wasn't a joke. So, hey. So yeah, you're getting a refund. And if it goes down for much longer, maybe you get more of a refund. I don't know. Let's talk about a new product that also ties into this theme of a smarter home infrastructure as opposed to like super gadgets. Although this is a gadget. This is a Kickstarter for the Power X suite of devices. And these are 3 different devices, one for electricity, one for water, and one for your
heater.
Thank you. Your hot water heater. It was like 2 waters. And as someone who I just installed an Aquanta hot water heater measuring device. Yeah. I'm like, this is kind of interesting to know. I don't know if people want to pay, it's what, $200 per device?
Well, that's the full price. Yes. You can get the entire suite. I mean, maybe you don't need, for example, the hot water heater bit. Who knows? You can pick and choose what you want. Electricity, hot water, whatever. And the whole suite is actually, if you pledge $199 or more, you get the whole thing, including a lifetime mobile app subscription. The full price is going to be, it's going to be around $600.
Here's my take. 1, this sort of information is really not useful unless it gives you calls to action that you can deal with. So I've had electricity meters in my house for years. And a lot of the time it's just like, once you've swapped out to LEDs, unless you're like willing to like line dry your clothes, it doesn't help too much.
Plus it's just data. It's just looking at charts. It doesn't tell you anything useful. Actionable.
Right. Now you can use some of this to do things like, oh, hey, my kids' showers are incredibly long, and tell them to stop. So there's useful things you can do, but I feel like this is like a yesterday's product, even though it's going where I think the smart home is going, simply because it's not orchestrating things for you. But maybe I'm just too picky.
No, I think that's fair. I mean, that's a concern, and another concern I have, and this is not a knock against PowerX, the people behind the project. It's with pretty much any startup, Kickstarter, et cetera project. What happens if they go out of business because they're giving you a subscription for free and they're not making any money after the sale of the hardware, will these devices become useless in the future? What happens? That's something people need to consider.
Yes, and it's a Kickstarter, so
yes.
That's something. All right, let's zip along here. Google Home may soon let you restrict access to smart home controls. To which I'm like, yeah,
Yay.
This is like, I don't know about y'all, but I don't want my kid changing the air conditioning, right? Or the heat. Actually, it's the heat now in this house because I moved up north. But you don't want them going in and being like, oh, turning it up to a balmy 74. So I think having these limits is really useful. The other Google news is Google Assistant is about to show us fitness and health data on our smart displays, which I don't know how I feel about that.
Oh, it's going to fat shame me. Wonderful. Wonderful. No, it is. I do like this in concept anyway. And I think we're starting to see some of the first bits of the Fitbit acquisition that I guess is still okayed. I haven't heard any news that it's not, because you will be able to add connected services to manage certain health aspects within the Google Assistant. And an example screenshot is showing Fitbit. So if you want to manage your sleep, for example, I don't know why I want my sleep data on a smart screen when I make my morning coffee, but
you did not sleep well last night.
No
You're
kidding.
like, I know.
That's why I'm having a third cup of coffee at 6 a.m. But I could see it very useful if you have step goals or maybe caloric intake goals. If I'm walking past the kitchen and it pops up and says, hey, you've consumed 1,500 calories and it's only 2 PM. I might think twice about what I'm going to eat.
Yeah, you might not take that cookie out of the jar. Okay.
Cookie? Handful of cookies.
The handful of cookies, indeed. Other news, Abode home security system they work with HomeKit, and they've basically added iOS widgets and shortcut supports.
Yeah. Well, I actually like that, and we'll get into a little bit why in a minute. I find that widgets on iOS, even though it took forever to get them and Android has always had them, is really handy for one quick access to whatever feature you want. And when I want to see my cameras, I don't want to dig around in an app, pick which camera. I can set up a widget for a specific camera right on my home screen. So I like that.
I'm with you. And yes. And final little news bit is Canonical's Ubuntu Core 20, which is a containerized version of Ubuntu for IoT devices, is now GA. This means you can have basically end-to-end, so device to cloud connections for your IoT devices using Ubuntu. And yay.
Okay.
This is important for the enterprise and industrial people who are using this.
Agreed.
And it's good for that. So that's why we're talking about it. I know we do a lot of smart home, but we don't have to do all smart home all the time. And now...
Well, let's do some smart home.
I was like, yeah, but now back to the smart home. Kevin, you have made a decision.
I'm not going to get into too much detail on this, but I'm just going to throw it out there in that although I've tested HomeKit over the years, I've traditionally stayed with Google to run my smart home. And I've tested Amazon as well, but our family has been very happy with Google. However, I think I'm going to mostly go in on HomeKit, all in on HomeKit as much as possible. And it's going to mean I'm going to have to swap out some bulbs and things, or actually set up or plug back in one of the home bridge device that I have, to add in non-HomeKit devices to my home. So I don't have to swap out devices. But I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. One, we don't do a lot of HomeKit here. We test certain devices, but I wouldn't say we live with it for months at a time. Two, I did switch from my de-Google Android phone over to an iPhone over the weekend. And I really like how the Home app works. I mean, I've got all my device settings available in the Home app. Plus I have them in my notifications center, at quick access immediately. So I think I'm going to give that a try. And that's all I'm going to say. We can debate it, I suppose. But, for people who think we don't do enough HomeKit, this one's for you.
Yeah, and I actually was, after testing the HomePods and experiencing the speed of like Thread on the HomePod with the NanoLeaf Essentials bulb, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go all in. And I started the process and I just couldn't give up Google. And because I'm on an Android phone,
I understand.
I love my Google displays. I think that's what it really was for me, is I like using the displays, and I know that I have an iPad. I have an iPad mini running around.
So along those lines, this is why I said mostly all in. I have several Google Smart Displays and I do really like them. I'm not going to get rid of them because certain devices that I have, certain Nest devices, for example, my video doorbell, I can see that pop up right away. I'm just going to keep that smart display for the very specific Google devices.
Got it. Well, and I think the other issue for me is we have a Madam A and someone, we have to live with and test these devices, right? So I have a Google and Madam A, but bringing Siri into the mix just felt like a lot.
It is. And honestly, I don't want to spend, hundreds and hundreds of dollars to replace every single bulb and device in my house just to do this. But I'm going to make it work with what I have and maybe just add a few more.
Yeah. Which actually is a lovely segue into this week's Internet of Things podcast hotline question. The IoT Podcast Hotline is brought to you by Very. Very is a fully distributed IoT engineering firm helping you get your biggest projects fully operational on time and on budget. So to discover what Very's multidisciplinary teams can do, please visit www.verypossible.com. And this is a big day for us on the IoT Podcast Hotline because we have a winner from last month. Our winner is Brett, and he has won the $99 smart home speaker of his choice. So either Apple, Google, or Madam A. So we'll reach out to you, Brett, and you can pick your hub. And if you would like to be entered to win a smart speaker of your choice, you can call us at 512-623-7424. And it's a new month, so it's a new contest. You will be entered to win. You can also leave us your questions, and hopefully we will answer them on the show. And now let's get Dennis, who had a really good question for us. Let's hear it.
Hey, Stacey and Kevin, this is Dennis from Ohio. I'm a HomeKit user, and I know the HomePod, both HomePods and the Apple TV and the iPad are all home hubs. In your opinion, which home hub is the best to use as your primary home hub? And thank you.
So to be honest, Dennis, I looked into this prior to my decision to go back to HomeKit. And really, any of these devices, any supported device will work. So I wouldn't say there's a best hub for HomeKit, whether it be a HomePod, HomePod Mini, Apple TV, or an iPad. Any of them can be added, and they all have the same functionality, such as allowing remote access to your devices, granting access to people, automations, etc. However, I will say this, because I was using an iPad as my home hub in prior testing, I would say that should be your secondary option, because the iPad has to always be on. And not everybody's iPad is always on and or plugged in, whereas the other devices are always connected to an outlet. So that would be my one thing to consider here.
My one thing to consider, because I'm into future proofing, and I think the HomePod Mini, the $99 one, is probably a good option because it supports Thread. And I think that is how Apple going forward will support things like the connected home over IP standard, which, little update for everybody, hoping to get the standard this month. Hoping.
Keyword hoping.
I know, man, just a slog. They are doing their final voting. But anyway, okay, so we'll learn more about that. But I think if that sort of thing is important to you, plus the performance of Thread on those bulbs, it's just freaking phenomenal. The only issue there is there's no display. It's all voice. Now, most people will have if you're an iPhone HomeKit family, you probably have an iPhone in your pocket, so it's not a big deal. But think about children and guests. They will have to use voice in that situation. Those are kind of the trade-offs for you, Dennis. And I hope that helps. It's hard to know without knowing who lives in your house and how you want to interact with this, how that would work. But, Thread is only on the HomePod Mini, and it's plugged into the wall, but there's no display. Those are kind of the factors I'm thinking about. Your radios, your display, if that's important, and portability / someone walking off with it to go watch Netflix.
Yeah, the Thread point is actually a really good one for future proofing. So that may be the best option, even though I said there probably isn't a best option. That's a good point.
So call us back, Dennis, and see if you could win February the HomePod Mini. If you would like to be entered to win, give us a call, or you just want to ask us a question, give us a call at 512-623-7424. And now that concludes the news portion of the show. Please stay tuned for our guest, Eric Fader from Lennar, to talk about their Ring deal and what Lennar has learned after 3 years of trying to sell people a smart home. But before that, let's hear from our sponsor, TerraCode. Hey everyone, we're taking a quick break from the Internet of Things podcast for a message from our sponsor. This week's sponsor is TerraCode, and I have Michael Sack here with me, who is the CEO and founder of TerraCode, which provides complete IoT services for companies, including IoT strategies, proofs of concept, and rapid prototyping. So Michael, can you help me explain what differentiates TerraCode in the IoT space?
TerraCode differentiates itself in 3 primary ways. First, we are outcome focused. Too many IoT projects fail because people undertake them for the wrong reasons. We make sure you have really well-defined objectives and outcomes that help your business so we can ensure we meet your goals. Second, we are fast and cost effective. We have many instances where we've gotten proof of concepts up and running in less than 30 days for under $10,000. Obviously, each project has its own nuances, but we treat your timeline and budget like it's our own. And finally, we believe IoT and machine learning go hand in hand. IoT alone is a very powerful tool, but when you combine machine learning with IoT, you get really powerful paradigm shifts that can change your business.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit more about how IoT and machine learning can change those business paradigms?
Sure. We did a project for one of the largest medical device manufacturers in the world last year. The device is used to perform laser surgery. It's got a bunch of sensors that fail over time from normal use, and the device becomes unusable for surgery. The patient is already prepped and ready to go when they power up the machine and they get that failure message. It's disruptive. It's costly when this happens. Plus, it's just not good for the manufacturer. We use the data that we collect from these devices to develop a predictive model that can tell us when the surgical device will fail 7 days ahead of time with about 98% accuracy. So now our client can repair the devices before they fail. So we've essentially eliminated downtime and all of the hassle that goes along with it.
Wow, that is really compelling. So could this kind of approach be used across other industries?
Absolutely. We do this for many different types of device makers and manufacturers, including paper manufacturers, steel manufacturers, boiler and HVAC equipment manufacturers, other medical device manufacturers, other IoT devices. It really works across all industries. Even on the consumer side, we're doing projects now for wearables and products that people have in their home.
Mike, where can someone learn more about TerraCode and the services you provide?
Stacy, we would love to help your audience learn more about IoT. If they go to terracode.com/Stacy on IoT, we actually have a special offer for them, a free IoT audit to assess their current strategy and IoT initiatives. That's terracode.com/Stacy on IoT.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Internet of Things podcast. This is your host, Stacey Higginbotham, and today's guest is Eric Fader, who is the managing general partner at Lennar. Lennar is the corporate venture arm for Lennar Inc. And Lennar, if y'all don't know, builds homes. So Eric, hello, and thank you for joining us today.
Hello, Stacey. Thank you for having me.
I am really excited. Longtime listeners might remember that we had David Kaiserman, who was also with Lennar, on the show a couple years ago talking about turning Lennar's new homes into smarter homes. And this week, Lennar actually announced a partnership with Ring, Flow, Level Locks, and a couple other companies to basically bring a new smart home concept to the market. So, Eric, first of all, I would love for you to talk to me a little bit about the vision behind the partnership with Ring.
Yes, sure, Stacey. So we ran a process and we sought to find the best of breed in home automation technology companies, and all roads led to Ring. We've had a longstanding relationship with Amazon and its companies, and Jamie Seminoff and the Ring team proved to us that they can deliver the most elegant, joyful home automation experience out there. It certainly fit within our criteria as a very easy DIY solution that we can include in our offering as a part of our Everything is Included or EI package. Home automation powered by Ring, and for the first time, offer home security and all of these features that you described earlier, whether it be the doorbell, the smart lock by level lock, a thermostat by Resideo, MyQ, garage door openers, the smart water device by Flow. All of these devices are controlled by one app, which is extremely unique for us and our customers.
Yes, and there were a lot of things that we covered in this announcement. The thing I thought was most significant actually was all of these things are going to be under one branded app. And I've been writing about app fatigue for a while because I'm like, oh, I'm so sick of like 20 apps to control my home. So I think this is a really good move. But I want to take you back just a little bit because I think we're going to get to some of the reasons why you did this particular partnership and why it's structured this way. So 3 years ago, I was sitting in a Lennar home in Texas with David Kaiserman of, at the time, Lennar Ventures, now LenX. And he talked to me about the partnership with Amazon, how Lennar was trying to bring in a bunch of high quality brands into a smart home package for homeowners. And I would be curious to see in those 3 years, what did y'all discover and how did that influence how you structured this particular Ring partnership?
Home automation, like all technology, evolves very quickly. And what we've learned is a lot of times less is more. There's not a one size fits all for our home purchasers. What we decided, what we learned is if we were to provide our customers with a foundation or a base from which they can build on and they can customize to their liking and their lifestyle habits, we'd be best off.
I guess light switches and things like that, I guess it's not that interesting to people?
No, the whole, that and all these settings for movie time and entertainment time and nighttime and people don't want that. I know there's a whole argument about listening devices, and we just don't have a listening device in our homes anymore. Not one, for many reasons. Not that we had an issue, but if people, like I mentioned, if people want them, they're $40. Good luck. And if you want specific brands, we leave it to you. This is the most, I kind of equate this to a car. We're delivering what we think is a really strong chassis, and you build up from there. And however you see fit, put on all the bells and whistles that you want. That gets really personal. We chose this package of smart devices, and Ring saw the virtue of collaborating with these different technology companies to bring them in under one app. We found that would be the most joyful experience for our customers. So historically, we had multiple manufacturers with multiple IoT devices, like you said, with multiple apps, could cause app fatigue. Someone rings the doorbell, the Ring app opens up. You want to unlock the door, you have to open up the smart lock app. You want to change your temperature, it's the thermostat app, and so on and so forth. Ring's willingness to integrate all of this, we found, has given our customers will give our customers the best experience. That was a lot of the feedback that we got. And with Ring's platform, now including the home security, we believe that our customers can build on that infrastructure, including our Wi-Fi guarantee from Eero, another Amazon company, the most robust platform to build on and to add devices to their liking that suits their lifestyles. It's nothing that we really want to curate. It's very similar to us when we sell a home. We don't outfit our homes with furniture because furniture is a very personal thing. We are giving our customers, again, the ability to design or, in my example, furnish how they see fit.
Well, yes and no. So I agree to some extent, but in others, like the doorbell, for example, is something that's going to come on the home. So if I had wanted, like if I am a Nest or Google Assistant user, I might look at that home and I might say, oh, I don't know if I really want a Ring doorbell. I assume, like being me, I would just change it. But are you concerned about those sorts of issues?
So Ring has been a standard and everything is included or EI option for years now. And we have not found any, or at least not that I'm aware of, any pushback relative to it being a Ring doorbell. If people are, or if our customers are set on a different manufacturer, they certainly have the ability to change that out.
True. I'm thinking about, is the doorbell going to be the reason I don't choose a house? Probably not. It's probably going to have a lot more to do with the floor plan. Let's talk about in the home itself. So if I am buying a new home, where does having this smart infrastructure in the home really rate for buyers? I mean, I feel like when I go in, I'm looking for like a certain number of bathrooms. Maybe I want my master on the bottom floor. I don't know. Where does this fit in?
I think that we're at a point in time where purchasers, it's no longer, it would be nice. I think we're at a point in time where it's expected. There are certain features within a home that, would certainly differentiate us from the used home market where some of these devices don't exist. I think it is going to be a standard for the industry going forward. And that might be a little aggressive, but it's just my personal belief. I think now layered in with the home alarm system, which our customers, it's pre-wired, it's pre-installed, and our customers have the ability to activate professional monitoring or not. And if they do, they're not going to be saddled with a very long-dated, long-term agreement at a very high monthly cost. It's something that it can arrange directly, electronically, digitally, and it could be, month to month, and we feel it's a lot of value for the money. So, I think that today this offering is to be expected and will be a paradigm shift in the new home builder market.
Okay. I tend to agree with you. And I say this because I have been doing this for years and have been frustrated by kind of the sheer gadgetry of a lot of this stuff and the lack of utility beyond like, ooh, I can sit on the couch and tell, my lights to turn on. But there are very real values to like water monitoring. Home security is another. I think the electrical panel is another area. You guys have been promoting great Wi-Fi in the home for the last 3 years. So clearly the network, also HVAC. So when you look at these things, it feels like y'all don't have anything on the electrical front, but are there other areas where you think it really makes sense to have the house be smart, not in a gadgety sense, but in a sense where it can actually be proactive for the user?
Yeah, and it's interesting, Stacey, because I read your recent article on the smart house with great interest because it's the foundation for which we built this package. And it's actually making the house smart and not so gadgety. If our customers choose to go in the gadgety direction with listening devices that do certain things in the home, certainly they can do that. But making the actual home smart with things like flow. And I do agree with you that the electrical panel is something that does deserve attention and is certainly in our pipeline at this point in time. We are very focused on water and water conservation and making the home smart relative to water. I will share with you that we've made an investment in a company called Greater that has invented a device that reclaims your gray water within the house and gets it to a level of purification where it can be repurposed and reused for the toilets. And we're finding that not only is this saving our customers about 1/3 of their water consumption, it's also being very well received by municipalities. So it's areas like that where we're thinking HVAC in the homes. We've been very involved with solar and smart solar systems, focusing now on microgrids within our communities. So, at Lennox and Lennar, we continue to think beyond the gadgety things, and we're very focused on creating truly a smart home, smart communities that are sustainable.
I like the gray water investment idea. I'm curious, as you look ahead, you mentioned this investment, an obvious place for maybe an add-on to the home package that you currently have is something like a smart sprinkler system or irrigation system. So going forward, what are the technologies that you might be interested in or that you feel belong as part of the smart infrastructure of the home?
Yes, sprinklers, irrigation is a good one. Look, we continue to innovate every aspect of our new home design. And, not all of it is quote unquote for smart home purposes, but, from our materials to our finishes to the technologies that are keeping our homeowners safer, more comfortable, and in control. Those are all covered in, the offering that I shared with you today, or that, other areas that I think are relevant are certainly the smart panel that you discussed. Aside from the way we're thinking today about how our customers live within our homes with these smart devices, we are constantly imagining and dreaming about, even how we build homes. And we've invested in a couple of companies like Cover and Vive that are taking the manufacturing from site build into a factory setting using panels that can be assembled in the field. And when you have manufacturing in a controlled environment like that, you can start dreaming about all the different smart technologies, smart devices, IoT devices, sensors that can be embedded in these homes. We talked about the electrical panels. Do we go to a low voltage home? Certainly that we all know the benefits of going from high voltage to low voltage. Do we rethink, how we distribute air conditioning and heat through a home? Do we rethink the way our homes are plumbed? Do we rethink the way the foundations for these homes and the building materials? And so it's all very exciting. It's all very new, and we are laser focused on continuing to try to innovate and stay ahead of the curve.
So let's go back to the experience. When someone buys a Lennar home, I know that originally the idea was they would get an hour-long consult with maybe someone from the Amazon team who would help them set things up and work on that. These devices are a little different. So talk to me let's say I bought one of your homes. What is going to be the experience when I close on that home, I get the keys, and I wander in?
Let's recap. The Amazon, or our Home Automation 1.0, came with what Amazon called their Amazon Experts program. And that came with a white glove, 1 hour or whatever the amount of time it took, orientation and customization with our homeowners. That came after the close, in certain instances, maybe a little too long after the close for certain customers. What we are finding is, especially today, people are less inclined to have people come into their home, COVID. What Ring has architected for us, the platform that they've designed, is as easy as, do it yourself as it comes. Amazon does an amazing job facilitating the installation is done. It's the activation. So the activation, our homes will be Wi-Fi ready, and the devices are all set up. It's just activating your account with Ring. And there will be a dedicated team for the new home builder market, starting with Lennar. And we're confident that, Ring will expand that to the rest of the industry. We're hopeful for that. But really, this is a plug and play. Lennar customer, here are your keys. All of your smart home devices are installed and ready. Here is your Ring app, and you can go through the normal Ring app activation process. If you have trouble with that, there are customer service representatives 24/7 to assist you through that process. But this is as DIY as it comes. And with the integration of the one app for all of the other devices, it's seamless.
Got it. Okay. So now here comes the fun part. And there's two aspects to the fun part. One is maybe I sell my home. So I would love to understand what the process is for deauthenticating everything. Do I need to go into each individual device app and do this? Can I do it from Ring? How do we expect the transfer to go? And then the second is maybe I don't sell my home. Maybe I live there for, 15 years. Which devices are going to last that long, and how do you kind of expect the technology in the home to age?
Yeah, so I'll address those in your order. So as simple as it was to activate your home, the simplicity around deactivating should be the same. So it's activating your account to your devices. It's deactivating your account to those devices. So that's the first part. The second part, relative to, everyone uses the term future-proof maybe a little too loosely. It's a tricky thing. We feel in partnering with Ring and the Amazon companies, such as Eero, that they are always ahead of the curve and will continue to innovate and design and integrate with not just Amazon companies, which was really appealing to us, their willingness to expand beyond Amazon companies and bring in other best of breed technology companies to complement their platform is what really convinced us that they will stay ahead of the technology curve. Look, let's face it, Ring is in the business of continuing to sell devices. So you would think that they'll continue to innovate and evolve their product offering. And we have every confidence that Moen, with their Flow device, they will continue to innovate in and around water and it's called plumbing devices. MyQ and that family of products, they dominate their space. The Residio and what they've done in their space. So we've selected and we've curated this portfolio or this combination of companies. And we believe that the future is sound and our homeowners can expect to see consistent upgrades, not just to the firmware, the software, but also to the hardware.
Got it. So it's not it's out of Lennar's hands, which is probably where it should be.
Yeah, let's be clear. Lennar is not a technology company. We're home builders. And it's our goal to deliver to our customers the best quality home, the best value, give them an experience that's joyful and frictionless, and to marry them with technology companies, namely Ring, that is going to be their point of contact, their point of engagement beyond the close. Ring is who our homeowners will deal with relative to their home automation.
Unless they pull it out because they don't want it, because it doesn't work with HomeKit or whatever the complaints might be. But that is not something y'all have to worry about. So, okay. Well, Eric, thank you so much for coming on the show this week to explain this deal and kind of how y'all are thinking about new homes going forward. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, and I look forward to sharing with you the progress we make in and around home automation and our IoT devices.
That's it for this week. Thanks so much for listening. And remember, if you'd like more IoT news, sign up for my newsletter at stacyoniot.com. We'll see you next week.